30-second reality check: your safe haven is actually a financial slaughterhouse. Why do you work 14 hours a day, pinch every penny, and scrimp on Starbucks, only to watch your savings in the bank lose value? Meanwhile, the wealthy doctor luxury cars, frequent, exclusive clubs, and carry millions in debt, yet they keep getting richer. It's not about luck. And it's definitely not because you are working hard enough. It comes down to a fundamental rule of finance that flips everything you've been told on its head. If you are still relying solely on saving your hard-earned paycheck, you need to watch this video to the end. You are trapped in the modern capitalistic world's biggest and most brutal lie: the myth of safe saving. Growing up, did your parents or teachers always tell you how hard money is to come by? Didn't they always urge you to lock it away in a bank account, avoid borrowing, and stay far away from debt? It sounds perfectly logical and incredibly safe, right? Wake up. That was a great strategy back in the agrarian days, when people worked based on the sunrise and sunset. But in today's world of rampant money, printing, and hyperliquidity, that traditional advice is financial poison. Truly wealthy people never leave the bulk of their money sitting in a bank. Instead, they actively find ways to borrow as much cash from banks as possible. They use the bank's massive capital to leverage and build their own wealth. This is the ultimate insider's secret the upper class keeps to themselves. The ultimate middleman: you are just saving. You're funding the wealthy. Many people panic the second they hear the word debt. It brings on stress and sleepless nights. But look at the CEOs of major public companies or real estate moguls. Every single one of them is leveraged to the hilt with bank debt. Do you think they live in constant fear of losing everything? The reality is they understand the core mechanics of how banking works. Banks don't manufacture physical goods. At their core, they are just financial middlemen. Let's break down the mechanics of this banking game using first principles. Average saver deposits cash, earns 1% measly interest to the bank. The bank lends capital, charges 3% to 5% interest to wealthy entrepreneurs. Wealthy entrepreneurs buys assets or starts companies, and employs the saver, collects rent from the saver. The bank uses a tiny 1% interest rate to lure everyday people into depositing their cash. Then, they turn around and lend that same money out at 3%, 5%, or even higher rates to business owners looking to scale, or investors buying up property. When you starve yourself of life's small pleasures just to save a few thousand extra bucks a month, you are simply acting as a source of cheap labor and cheap capital for this financial machine. The wealthy take your hard-earned savings from the bank, use it to buy up prime assets, and then rent those exact assets back to you. Or, they invest it into companies and hire you to work for them, profiting off your daily labor. Your hard-earned savings end up serving as the stepping stones for someone else's upward mobility. The invisible thief: how inflation legally robs you every single day. What's worse is that the money you leave in the bank is constantly being eroded by inflation. Think back to 10 years ago. How much did a standard chicken lunchbox cost you? Back then, a solid, filling meal was incredibly cheap. Fast forward to today. Walk into any local diner, and that same meal costs nearly double, while the portion size has shrunk. Has your salary doubled over the last decade? For the vast majority of regular employees, wages have remained completely stagnant. This means the purchasing power of your cash is shrinking at an alarming rate. That million you saved a decade ago is worth less than half its value today. The root cause lies in a massive loophole within the modern monetary system. Ever since fiat currency detached from the gold standard, governments around the world have been printing money endlessly. As the market floods with cash, paper money naturally loses value. That is the ultimate fate of fiat currency. Whenever an economic crisis hits or massive infrastructure projects need funding, governments rely on central banks to inject freshly printed money into the economy. This flood of capital causes the price of hard assets to skyrocket. Whether it's stocks, real estate, or gold, prices surge simply because the currency itself is losing value. Meanwhile, the cold numbers sitting in your savings account stay exactly the same. It is a hidden tax on the people who play by the old rules and save their money. The rich know that in an era where the money printing presses never stop, hoarding cash is the ultimate form of financial self-sabotage. They understand that the only way to beat the system and grow wealth is to convert depreciating cash into high-quality assets as fast as possible. The two sides of debt: the critical line between good debt and bad debt. However, Relying solely on your own cash to buy assets is a slow process. That's why the wealthy master the art of borrowing. While the average person views borrowing as a vice, the rich view it as a powerful tool. You must grasp one core financial concept: the difference between good debt and bad debt. The poor and middle class typically accumulate bad debt, which keeps them trapped, while the rich collect good debt. Bad debt liabilities that take money out of your pocket. High interest credit cards, installment plans for luxury bags, loans for fast depreciating cars, forces you to use your paycheck to pay down principal and interest, with zero cash coming back in. Good debt leverage that puts money into your pocket. Loans used to buy high-yield dividend stocks or rental properties with stable cash flow, generates positive spreads in cash flow, or someone else like a tenant pays off the loan for you. Borrowing money to satisfy short-term consumer desires is financial poison. But the debt the rich take on is strictly good debt. The classic example is using a low-interest mortgage to purchase a rental property that yields steady income, or investing in high-dividend stocks. If you secure a mortgage at a 2% interest rate to buy a property, and the property generates a 4% rental yield, that 2% spread is pure profit generated entirely by using the bank's money. The best part, you aren't the one paying down that mortgage every month. Your tenant is the one working hard to send you rent on time. Fast forward 20 or 30 years, the mortgage is completely paid off, and you own a valuable property free and clear. Throughout that entire timeline, you barely touched your own capital. This is the most famous strategy in finance: using other people's money, OPM. By leveraging other people's capital, you don't have to spend decades saving millions to buy property in cash. You use the bank's leverage to secure future wealth today. This is why the wealthy seem to spend freely yet keep getting richer. They own assets that constantly pump cash into their pockets. The ultimate wealth play: exploiting inflation and tax codes legally. Beyond generating positive cash flow, borrowing offers to hidden, borderline unfair advantages. First, inflation melts your debt away. Inflation doesn't just eat your savings, it shrinks your debt too. This is a counterintuitive concept that most people never fully understand. Let's look at a very simple mathematical reality. Suppose you take out a $10 million mortgage today. 30 years from now, you still owe the bank that same nominal $10 million. But will $10 million buy the same amount of goods 30 years from now? With a modest 2% to 3% annual inflation rate compounding over time, the purchasing power of that $10 million will drop drastically over. It might only feel like a fraction of that value in today's terms. This means inflation effectively pays off a massive chunk of your real debt for you. As long as the asset you bought grows alongside inflation, you are successfully using the bank's money and inflation to wipe out your liabilities. It is the cleanest form of wealth transfer on earth. Banks understand this perfectly. It's why they charge everyday consumers higher interest rates to offset inflation. Second, borrowed capital is tax-free. Under global tax structures, earned income from labor is hit with heavy, progressive taxes. The money you sweat for at your job is taxed before it ever hits your account. The harder you work and the more you earn, the higher your tax bracket climbs. You give the system your prime years and your best energy, only to see the government take the largest cut. But what happens when you pull cash out using debt? Because borrowed money is a liability that must eventually be paid back. It is never classified as taxable income. This explains why many billionaire founders take a nominal salary of just $1. It allows them to completely bypass steep income taxes. When they need cash to fund their lifestyle or bankroll a new venture, they simply take out a loan against their stock portfolio. They get immediate access to massive liquidity. They spend it however they like. To top it off, the interest they pay on those loans can often be written off against other asset gains to lower their overall tax liability. This is how the wealthy master the tax code to keep their fortunes intact. The engineer trap: why schools keep quiet about this? And this might shock you, or even make you angry. If leveraging debt has so many advantages, why does everyone around us still preach the gospel of saving? Why don't teachers ever dedicate a class to financial leverage and strategic debt? The answer is cold. Calculating. Our modern education system was built during the Industrial Revolution. Its primary goal was to mass-produce compliant workers for factories and corporations. The system requires workers who follow instructions, value predictability, and dutifully park their earnings in savings accounts. This keeps the economy stable and ensures large corporations and banks have a non-stop supply of cheap capital. If children were taught how to use financial leverage and capitalize on other people's money from day one, who would show up to turn the wrenches in factories? Who would log 60-hour weeks in corporate cubicles? A scarcity mindset is actively conditioned by the system to keep the societal machine running. But once you pull back the curtain and see the mechanics of wealth, you can't go back to sleep. Mastering the machine, a secure four-step blueprint for average earners. Let me be absolutely clear, borrowing money to invest is a double-edged sword. It requires high financial literacy, strict risk management, and total emotional control. If you blindly borrow money without doing deep research, you will end up chasing hype, buying into volatile assets at the peak, and getting wiped out by the first market correction. You'll lose your capital and be left with a mountain of unpayable debt. Financial institutions are not charities. They run brutal checks and only lend money to individuals who prove they can repay it and possess immaculate credit histories. Your credit profile is your single most valuable asset in the modern economy. For an everyday professional, how do you start using good debt safely without risking ruin? You must follow these four non-negotiable steps. Step 1. Wipe out all bad debt. You must immediately stop draining your wallet with bad debt. Pay off high-interest credit card balances and expensive consumer loans as fast as humanly possible. If you are carrying debt with double-digit interest rates, financial independence is mathematically impossible. No safe, legitimate investment can consistently beat the compounding destruction of high-interest consumer debt. Step 2. Build a powerful credit profile. You need to establish an excellent credit history within the banking system. Many people pride themselves on never owning a credit card or always paying in cash. In the eyes of credit bureaus, these financial ghosts are highly risky. Because there is no track record of repayment behavior, banks have no way to measure your reliability and will simply deny your loan applications. Get 1 or 2 solid credit cards. Use them normally, and pay the statement balances off in full every single month. Never carry a balance or trigger interest charges. Use time to build a stellar credit score, so that when you need to borrow for a prime asset, you qualify for the absolute lowest rates. Step 3. Weaponize your day job. Value your steady employment. Many people read about wealth building and immediately want to quit their jobs to launch a startup. This is a massive mistake. Until your passive income completely covers your living expenses, your steady paycheck is your best weapon. A stable corporate job with documented income is your ultimate leverage. When applying for low-interest mortgages, home equity lines of credit, or premier personal loans, banks don't like lending to unpredictable, volatile startups. They love lending to steady W to employees, civil servants, and corporate professionals with guaranteed, recurring monthly income. Keep Excel spreadsheets tight, maximize your primary income, and use it as the foundation for your financial leverage. Step 4. Target inflation-resistant core assets. Put in the work to identify and invest in assets that naturally outpace inflation over the long haul. This means prime residential real estate with strong rental yields, commercial spaces, or broad market index funds that track major economies, such as the S&P 500 or total market ETFs. As long as the long-term compound annual growth rate of your asset consistently outpaces the borrowing costs of your loan, you are executing the wealthy playbook perfectly. You are letting other people's capital work for you. Rewrite your script, take control of your financial future. Once you fully digest these core financial principles, your perspective changes permanently. You stop hoarding cash under the mattress or letting it rot in low-yield certificates of deposit while inflation eats it alive. You stop stressing over minor salary bumps or walking on eggshells around your boss. You start thinking like a true capitalist, mastering the time value of money and strategic leverage. Taking on debt will feel incredibly uncomfortable at first. It goes against decades of traditional, risk-averse advice passed down by well-meaning parents and elders. But if you genuinely want to break out of the cycle, build generational wealth, and stop stressing over bills, you have to shed that old scarcity mindset and adopt the financial logic of the wealthy. The global economy doesn't care about people who play it safe and let inflation dissolve their purchasing power. The systemic rewards go to the few who analyze the rules and play the game intentionally. Take a second, sit down, and run a brutal assessment of your current financial situation. Take a hard look at your liabilities. Is your debt the bad kind? Expensive consumer loans that pull money away from you? Or is it the good kind, low-cost strategic leverage that quietly builds your net worth month after month? If you are carrying bad debt, build an aggressive repayment plan to eliminate it immediately. If you have zero liabilities, you are starting with a clean, powerful financial canvas. Begin learning how to utilize strategic good debt to set up a long-term, stable financial runway. Stop letting your hard-earned cash sit idle in bank accounts until it loses all utility. Activate your capital, treat it like an army, and deploy it strategically to build your future. Wealth building isn't just about math and spreadsheets. It's a psychological battle against fear and greed. Shifting your financial trajectory starts with a simple, fundamental shift in how you view the system. Hopefully, this deep dive gives you a completely fresh take on managing wealth. If this breakdown of debt, inflation, and capital mechanics brought value to your financial journey, hit the like button, subscribe to the Wealth Lab channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our masterclasses. Drop a comment below and let us know what kind of bad debt you are focusing on clearing first, so we can discuss the best strategies to wipe it out and get you out of the rat race. This is the Wealth Lab, where we break down the exact strategies the wealthy use every day but never talk about. We want you to see the system clearly, master the rules of leverage, and build true financial freedom. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.